And here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to the next LEGO game character ranking, LEGO Marvel's Avengers. Now, I was sick of covering the more recent bad LEGO games, and instead I want to go back to the year 2016, back when LEGO games were, solid, perfectly solid, in fact. Let me tell you, there was a large and arduous judging process to choose the next LEGO game to rank. Very long and arduous indeed.
Alright, got them all here, all the ones that are eligible for ranking. There they all are, and let's just get a crack at it. Well, interesting. I wonder how you guys are going to react to that.
Now, LEGO Marvel Superheroes, the first one, stands as probably my favorite LEGO game of all time. And LEGO Marvel Avengers, while ditching a lot of LEGO Marvel's roster and replacing them with D-list Marvel characters that no one has ever heard of before, this one is still a good second best LEGO Marvel game. A lot better than LEGO Marvel Superheroes 2, anyway. LEGO Avengers is based on the MCU itself, while LEGO Marvel was just an original story. This game, though, is mostly Phase 2 stuff, which is, easily the weakest phase of the MCU. Also, though, this game kind of serves as kind of like a time capsule of the MCU at this point in time, since so much has happened in the MCU since this game's release. In fact, there are a ton of characters that were shoved into this game as random unlockables, but were actually added to the MCU since the game came out. I'll have a counter for such cases as we come across them. Also, I have a few ground rules to cover before we start ranking. The amount of characters in this game is almost too much, with 196 characters in the base game, and then even more with all of the DLC packs, which I'll be ranking all, of course. But some characters are kind of 2-in-1. For example, Hulk can transform into Bruce Banner, so should they count as 2 characters? Also, Hawkeye has 3 variants, but they all are the same in terms of abilities, so should they count as 1 or all 3? Here's my final verdict for this dilemma. If you hold down the character change button and it triggers a transformation instead of bringing up the character roster immediately, then that character and their transformation will count as 1 character. So Hulk and Bruce Banner will be counted as 1, but each Hawkeye will have its own character slot, since when you hold down the character change button, the roster automatically comes up. Got it? The only dilemma left to be discussed is Iron Man, because he applies to neither scenario. If you hold down the character select button as Iron Man, he doesn't transform and the character roster doesn't immediately show. In this case, the camera zooms in to that iconic Iron Man face cam, and all of his suits are displayed to be able to switch to, as well as the more characters, which brings up the character roster. Since there are so many different suits, each suit will be ranked separately so long as it has its own icon on the character roster. That means that the Hulkbuster will not be ranked. I know it sucks and eventually it'll seem hypocritical, but it can't be helped. I'm sorry. Using the system of ranking, and after all the DLC, the total amount of characters sums up to be a whopping 297 characters. That's a 30-part series I'm taking on, and I hope you'll be along for all of it. I'll cover the first 7 characters in this part, and then each subsequent part after this will include 10 characters. So, with all that said, let's get right into the every character ranked for LEGO Marvel's Avengers. Starting off this list, we have none other than Laura Barton, Hawkeye's secret wife that he told no one about, ever. Unfortunately, since she's at the literal bottom of the barrel as the character in last place, she can't do anything. Despite the massive amount of characters, only 5 characters have no abilities, which is, actually pretty surprising. You get Laura Barton from Barton's Farm, which is a free roam area in this game. This game has several free roam areas, the largest being Manhattan, which is a copy and paste from LEGO Marvel, but the other free roam areas are smaller, but still cool that they're included. Honestly, seeing the different areas being represented as free roam areas was probably my favorite part about 100%ing this game, outside of the story mode. But again, Laura Barton does nothing, and honestly, I find it really hard to believe that Hawkeye has the time to 1, have a family, and 2, tend to a farm while working for S.H.I.E.L.D. Ah yes, the annoying kid that had a minor role in Iron Man 3 and makes a surprise cameo to dance on the grave of Tony Stark in Endgame. We have Harley Keener. Now honestly, considering the amount of abilities in this game, I find it very weird that he has no abilities whatsoever. I mean, he has a potato gun, which can shoot targets, but I don't consider that an ability for this game. There are at least a few abilities I could see him having, but alas, he has none. You actually play as him in a level and unlock him through the story. The level is called Ready, Aim, Fire, also known as the Iron Man 3 level. You see, each Avengers movie had 6 levels, and then Thor the Dark World, Captain America Winter Soldier, and Iron Man 3 each get 1 level, equaling it out to 15 levels for the base game, which is the standard for LEGO games at this time. Anyway, you play Harley Keener alongside a suitless Tony Stark. Other than this level where you're required to play as him, I don't think you'd ever find yourself playing this guy unironically. Is this a world where I consider a random henchman to be a more valuable character in a game than 2 characters who actually had lines in the movie they appeared in? I mean, yeah, technically, but they're all stuck here at the bottom of the list, so who cares? This is Claw Henchman. Henchman of Claw. This guy, like Laura Barton and Harley Keener, he has no abilities. However, his weapon is what sets him apart. His gun shoots actual bullets, not potatoes. Well, I don't know. I guess the bullets from the standard guns look a bit more like tiny blast than bullets, but whatever. It's a gun. It's a gun. That's all you need to know. You get this guy as a character token from a level, which kind of seems like a waste. Even more wasteful, the level you get this guy from is the Rise of Ultron level, which takes place in Sokovia. So Claw was already out of the movie at this point. It would have made more sense for this guy to be a character token in the anger management level, which is the level Claw actually turned up in. Now, call me crazy, but I kind of like AIM, even though they kind of take a back seat to S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra when it comes to the Marvel, big organizations. They were wasted in the MCU, and yes, AIM is in the MCU. I also forgot they were until recently. AIM in the MCU was the company Aldrich Killian founded. You remember Aldrich Killian, the real Mandarin? No? The AIM agent in this game is much more based on the AIM organization we know and love from the comics and other forms of Marvel media. I always dug the yellow hazmat suit they wear. The AIM agent here, though, is basically a reskin of the Claw Henchman, having a gun as an accessory but no abilities. Although, the AIM agent has more identity to them, a lot more than the Claw Henchman at least. I mean, they're distinguishable. I see a guy in a yellow hazmat suit in Marvel and I know it's AIM. Who knows? Maybe AIM will come back into the fold in the MCU someday. Because what else are they going to do? And we've already arrived at the final character with no abilities. Honestly, I only ranked this guy above the rest so far because he's just so weird. The Chitauri Taurus has no weapon, but instead a camera that flashes stuff. What I find weird is that there's no standard Chitauri character. No, none at all. They have a gimmicky Chitauri tourist, but not the standard variant with, I don't know, it's strange. Ultron has 2 of, different, army soldiers from his army in the roster. But, whatever. Honestly, Chitauri Taurus maybe belongs below Harley Keener because at least Harley has a weapon. It's a potato gun, but it's a weapon. But again, these are characters you will never touch. So really, the order of these bottom characters are arbitrary. But I really have nothing else to say about this guy, just that it's very weird that there's no regular Chitauri character, especially considering the amount of characters they plopped in this game. Now, I have a weird childhood connection to Absorbing Man. I mean, it's not like I don't like him or anything. It's just that as a kid, I had a huge Marvel character encyclopedia, and Absorbing Man was one of the first entries in the entire book, since the book was in alphabetical order. I like to read entries, and I usually started at the beginning, so I know a bit about Absorbing Man in that his skin changes to match the material of whatever he touches. It's kind of cool. In fact, he was in the MCU. Well, kind of. Depends on your definition of what counts as MCU. Personally, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Seasons 1 and 2 were canon in my head, but Season 3 and onwards weren't. It just got too weird, and then the Darkhold was a thing, and the Darkhold became a thing in WandaVision. Nah. I'm just gonna act like it didn't happen. I don't care what you say, that's my headcanon. But Absorbing Man here showed up in Season 2, so in my head, that makes him canon. But this game's Absorbing Man is not based on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. version. I also said something about starting a counter for every time there's a character in this game that was added to the MCU after this game came out. But I don't think Absorbing Man applies since, Season 2 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was already out by the time this game came out. Also, Absorbing Man has one ability in this game, but it's basically useless. It's nothing. It's regenerative health. Basically, if you get hit, your hearts will replenish over time. It turns out a ton of characters in this game have regenerative health, so get used to me talking about it. Ah yes, our first DLC character on the list. Sprouting from the AntMan DLC pack, Anthony has got to have one of the most devastating deaths in the MCU, up there with Iron Man, I'd say. Like, just think about it. Ant-Man rode atop Anthony while charging with a swarm of other flying ants towards Darren Cross, or Yellow Jacket. This dude, in his infinite wisdom, pulled out a pistol and shot at the swarm as if that was going to do anything. But it does do something, because he manages to hit the one ant Scott Lang made a connection with. Not only that, but he just hits Anthony. By all accounts, Scott should have also shared the hit, but was instead launched to another ant. I don't know about you, but the marksmanship of Darren Cross, I think, is amazing. That was a targeted kill, made to make Scott feel bad on purpose. Like, we don't know if Anthony actually died, but I mean, I'm willing to bet a bullet would probably mess up an ant pretty good. I mean, enough, MCU talk. Anthony in this game is scary as hell. He can change his size, which is a useful ability for some other characters, but it doesn't do anything for Anthony here. He just switches from freakishly huge ant to a very freakishly huge ant. Also, he can fly, which is an ability you'll come to learn that I value almost more than any ability in this game. But honestly, I can't play this guy without shuddering.